We have a longer reading today, 6 verses in chapter 3 of Colossians, verses 8 to 13. But now ye also put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Lie not one to another, seeing that ye have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him, where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor free, but Christ is all and in all. Put on therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, bowels of mercies, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long-suffering, forbearing one another, and forgiving one another, if any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye. One of the characteristics of our society is that many people have more clothes than they know what to do with. It's possibly the case with you and me too. We were talking about this at work one day, and I learned that there are people who try on several different outfits in the morning before they decide what they should wear that day. Those who know me best would understand that I'm not one of them. The picture of dressing is a favourite illustration of the Apostle Paul, and it's something that we all understand. Children love to play at dressing up and will go through a succession of taking off one set of clothes and putting on another. That's what Paul writes about in these verses. He begins in verses 8 and 9 by urging the Colossians to take off one set of clothes, and in verses 10 to 13 to put on another. Paul writes about putting on quite often in his letters, in fact in most of the church epistles. The word he uses in verses 10 and 12 of this chapter is the word that the Lord Jesus used in Matthew chapter 6 verse 25 when he told the disciples not to be anxious for your body, what ye shall put on. He was talking about literal clothes. When Paul writes about having put off the old man in verse 9, the idea is to strip off completely and be done with entirely. In chapter 1, we learned that we were translated into the kingdom of his dear Son, verse 13. That change was complete and irreversible. When Paul writes in verse 8 about putting off all them, he means for us to throw off the metaphorical clothes that characterize the sinful ways of our sinful life. Act in keeping with the fact is what he's saying. I want you to notice in verse 12 that he writes, put on therefore as the elect of God. Now most people, when they come across the word elect, think of God's chosen ones, and then they proceed to argue at length about election. When I see that word, it actually makes me think more of God's choice ones, the special honour showered upon us by a loving and gracious God. You see, we're always careful what we wear for a special occasion. People try their best to dress well. This is what Paul is urging upon the Colossians. God has brought us into something special, and he would have us dress in keeping with our standing, to dress in keeping with our calling. The clothing that Paul has in mind, of course, is not made out of fabric. It is cloth made from the characteristics of Christian care for one another. A heart of mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, forbearance, forgiveness. Those are the things he mentions in verses 12 and 13. That is the uniform that every Christian should wear. Paul exhorts us to put off the dirty fabric of darkness and to put on the clean cloth of holy living. Make sure you dress well today. In the next clip, the peace of God and the word of Christ is what we'll look at.